Chances are, if you've ever been on a website that features Flash games, you've probably heard of a little series called Duck Life. This series, while having its first game made in 1999, is still having installments being developed today. Each game is also relatively short and fun, with every game more or less following a similar idea. That idea being, by playing a variety of endless runner type minigames that progressively get faster and more difficult, it allows you to become faster when racing in automatic base races between your duck and usually 3 other ducks. In simplistic terms, this basically means that you train your duck so that he can be faster in races that you have very little control over. On top of that, there's an energy level which is only increased by buying and feeding the ducks different seeds. This energy is important because it is what determines how long the duck can go in a race without passing out. Using the ducks you train, you will earn money to spend on the duck, whether for cosmetic or useful items, such as costumes and duck colors. While most of Duck Life games are more or less very similar to each other, they are also very different from each other. So, in this video, I'll be giving a breakdown of the different Duck Life games, from the first to the third. Also, I would do Duck Life Treasure Hunt and Duck Life 4, but Duck Life Treasure Hunt doesn't work on Cool Math Games, and that's the website I've been using to play these games. And Duck Life 4 is really long. Like, when I looked up the footage for these videos that you're seeing the footage of right now, the other 3 Duck Life games were like at most 55 minutes. Duck Life 4 is 4 hours. That is crazy. I do not have time to do that. I have a school assignment to do. And it's about Duck Life. That's my tangent. So, I suppose we should just dive right on into the ducks. As far as the story goes, this game does its job, and nothing more. A storm destroys your farm, and you're left with only 1 duck egg, which you will raise into a racing machine in order to help you regain funds to rebuild your farm, presumably. They don't really specify that. Also, just one thing to keep in mind in terms of the Duck Life story, it doesn't really matter. It's not what you're playing the game for, and it goes off the walls in the next couple games. Anyways, in this game, there are only 4 categories of which you can train and upgrade, these being running, swimming, flying, and the previously mentioned energy. If you ask me, the swimming minigame is the best of the 3 minigames. It's just a fun, infinite runner minigame. If I had to choose, I'd say the running minigame is above the flying one, but not by much. The running minigame has an incredibly slow start, and when it finally speeds up, some of the jumps require perfect timing and can be unfair at times. The flying game, on the other hand, is just frustrating to me. Nothing you do in the minigame can increase the distance you travel, so your only option is to collect coins while flying. The only way to increase your distance you travel is to increase your flying stat, and the only way to increase your flying stat is to play the flying minigame. You see the issue here? And just to simplify that down, the frustration I have with it is that the only way to do better in the flying minigame is to play the flying minigame, but the only way that you would play the flying... See, it's dumb. It's so dumb, and it gets so much better in the later games. Anyway, the swimming one is super fun and requires quick reflexes and focus. The running minigame is kind of frustrating, and the flying minigame infuriates me. Overall, though, Duck Life 1 is a fun, quick game, but it's just a little tedious. Oh, and speaking of tedious... In all honesty, Duck Life 2 is kind of just a worse version of the first, but there are some improvements. First, there's a brand new minigame and stat, climbing. This is a breath of fresh air, especially if you're playing the game right after the first one. Also, they fixed my biggest hatred of the first game, the awful flying minigames. Now, it's an actual game where you have to dodge large pillars of stone in order to progress. However, as nice as these progressions really are, this game is probably not worth your time for one basic reason. This game has an increasable level cap for running, flying, climbing, and swimming. This is an issue because it completely kills the pacing of this game. Instead of having one really good minigame that sends you forward 30 or higher points, now you can only go to level 20 and only go higher if you pay 50 coins. Even then, when you pay the 50 coins for the upgrade, you can only go up 10 more levels, which means you can only get 10 more levels until you need to pay another 50 coins just to get 10 more. And I know that doesn't really sound that awful, and yeah, it's really not. But when you are trying to get through all the Duck Life games in a week at school alone, then yeah, having this just time waster that could easily not existed is really frustrating, and it just I hate it. Overall though, the game really isn't that bad. I just have personal gripes, especially since there's this one bug where in the swimming minigame, if you dive right next to the right side of the island, your legs will clip inside of the island and you will instantly die and lose the minigame, which is not something that was in the first game. So it's kind of weird that they take pretty much the exact same minigame and just kind of make it worse. But it's alright, the game is just okay. I'm probably never gonna play it again, and if you are deciding to play the games, skip it and move on to Duck Life 3. And oh my, Duck Life 3. Duck Life 3. Now this game is good, like really, really good. From what I've played of Duck Life 4, I think it's fair to say that Duck Life 4 is the most innovative of the entire Duck Life series, but oh my gosh, Duck Life 3 has its own little charm. If you ask me, I would say that this game is really the last one that stays true to the entire Duck Life formula. Because every other game in the series after this really tries to change how Duck Life works. And this one just perfected the art of the original Duck Life. Way better than Duck Life 2 did. And I seriously recommend just play this game. It is so good. Though I suppose I should tell you why this game is so good instead of just telling you to go and play it, because there are some very valid reasons and very explainable reasons why this game succeeds and Duck Life 2 didn't. First off, this game kind of introduces Duck Life story, like what they go with every time after this, and it's about evolving ducks, as you can tell from the title, Duck Life 3 Evolution, but they use genetic manipulation. It's weird. I don't understand why they had to go with that, but it's not a real strong suit of the game, but I appreciate the weirdness. This game has amazing mini games. Not only does it bring back the climbing mini game from Duck Life 2, which was probably the best part of Duck Life 2, this game adds new mini games for every quote-unquote chapter of the game. And when I say chapter, I mean that this game has 3 levels, and these 3 levels are beginner, advanced, and professional. Now it blew my mind when I saw that they added so many new mini games. It's true, they aren't to new statistics, they are still the basic running, flying, swimming, climbing, but it's so cool that they added new mini games for all of them. Granted, not all the mini games are good. For example, the professional swimming minigame is really bad, and you kind of have to play it in order to beat the final boss, which we'll get into the final boss later because he's amazing. But yeah, in order to beat the final boss, you need to play this water minigame because you need a high level swimming, and the only way to get a high level swimming is to play the swimming minigame in the professional league. So it's kind of frustrating there, but it's not too awful. So, before you is the final boss of Duck Life 3, and it is the most 2000s Flash game thing ever. You fight Domo-kuns and ducks in an epic race, and it is so... oh, I love it. I love it. So actually, in this fight, you have to click the Domo-kuns or they slow you down immensely. And like, it's the only Duck Life thing thus far that actually has you do something like as yourself rather than as just your duck doing it automatically. But it's fair to say that Duck Life 3 is the most true to the original in the series. It's a fun game, it's a funny game, and it's just a blast to play, and I would seriously recommend it to anyone. It is so good. So I'm not really expecting the outcome of this to really change some lives. I mean, I just made a retrospective on Duck Life. I don't think that's really going to do much, but maybe it'll convince you to go back and visit one of those old Flash games that you can still play, by the way, with websites like Cool Math Games, who've converted the old Flash game to HTML5, which is just a way of playing Flash games after the death of Flash. To anyone that doesn't understand what that means, it's just a whole bit of gibberish, but it doesn't really matter. Just go to websites that you can still play it and go play some Duck Life, you know? Even the worst of Duck Life is still a lot of fun to play. And yeah, I just gotta, you know, I'm not expecting this to impact anyone's like lives, to change the outcome of the world, but you know, maybe I can just have a little bit of fun and have people go and play some Duck Life. In case you're curious, this is probably how I would rank all the Duck Life games. No surprise, Duck Life 2 comes in last. Duck Life Treasure Hunt, which wasn't actually featured in this video, it's really not that great. I played a little bit of it before it was taken down from Cool Math Games, and it's pretty much just Jetpack Joyride, but a little bit worse. And I've been playing Duck Life 4, and it's really good. And that's basically my thoughts on Duck Life. I think it's a really good series, really good Flash series especially, and it's really worth your time. I hope this was a little informational and it was able to explain some things in Duck Life to you and maybe get you into Duck Life. You never know. I really have to thank, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, Ludophiles, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He basically uploaded a long play of every single Duck Life game, and that's the footage you've been seeing throughout this video. So if it weren't for him doing that, I would have had to record the footage myself, and that would have been rough. So large thanks to him. All of his videos will be left in the description, as well as a link to subscribe to his channel. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and I'll keep in touch on what grade I got on this assignment. Thank you.